7 full days of group play have led us all the way to this final best of 2 series. And Caldor, it is an exciting one. Roll20 Esports taking on CE.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped actually. The Roll20 squad is absolutely amazing. The guys are super motivated. They're having a lot of fun here. They learn a lot. And especially Cure just said we should be ready because he promised he's going to pop off in that series. So
he's feeling pretty good.
Yeah, he is. Like, he was sprinting back to the desk. I think he was in the bathroom or somewhere, and he just like sprinted back and was like, "Someone's motivated over here." And
that or had a lot of caffeine.
Yeah, probably.
Probably that too.
I mean, they are pretty hyped. They had so far a bit of a tough run. They had great games against a lot of teams, of course, especially against MVP of KSV Black and Fnatic. It looked like they could take maps, and then at the end just didn't turn out that way. A lot of potential, but I think that has always been a bit the curse of North America. There was always the potential there could be more, but then results in the end is what matters, and they promise that they're going to deliver now. And I think, especially in 2018, with how well they already perform as a squad, there is definitely, I think in 2018, NA is finally going to be Europe again.
Maybe it'll even happen here. You don't know how the next stage will shape up.
I give you next year. Don't, like...
You give me an itch, I'll take a mile.
Yeah, I can tell. You immediately just, you wait, we're still going to win the tournament.
Well, this is an important match for both of these teams for multiple reasons. Obviously, this is the last match to determine seeding. And the team who is able to come out on top because of this match will get to play BTG. And as much as BTG has been working to improve, obviously, any team would like to play versus them in the first round. Yeah. CE only needs the 1 victory, though, to maintain that status because they have 1 actual extra point over Roll20, whereas Roll20 needs that 2-0.
Now, I can spoil a couple of things, not too much, but CE had a pretty rough time preparing today for the match. They had their scrim sessions lined up, and I watched some of the games, and especially against Fnatic, like, it was brutal. CE did not have a good time, and I know that Roll20 with their scrim sessions actually did fairly well, so they're really confident heading into the series. Then again, CE is always this mixed bag. Sometimes in scrims they just don't really perform, and then the next day you see them play and it's a completely different team. That's what actually was the problem for Dignitas, because Dignitas had an insane scrim record against CE, and then once they faced each other on stage, CE all of a sudden played way better and surprised Dignitas and was able to take a map. So it's something where we have to still consider that on stage is always a little bit different than scrims, but CE currently, at least today, is struggling a bit preparing for this match.
And CE does have a lot more riding on this match than just making sure that they are as high as they can be in the standings. Oh, yeah. CE, as of right now, there might be some questions now that we've seen how SPT played versus Fnatic, but all the way up until today, CE was really the only Chinese team that teams would consider being able to take games or series off of the top teams. And because of that, CE has a lot of extra pressure potentially riding on their shoulders because this is a Chinese tournament, right? They want to do well. They want to represent their region well.
Yeah, we have 3 Chinese commentators right over there that are very excited and have so far still a lot of smiles on their faces. That's something that Roll20 is going to try and change. But CE has been the hope for the Chinese region so far. So because BTG is not going to be the team that all of a sudden makes it into the upper ranks. SPT has also the potential there, but all the hopes are basically riding on CE at this point, since they showed the most promise overall when you look at the entirety of those 7 days that we played here. And, I mean, they have it in them. That's definitely true. And a lot of the teams have already grown in the tournament. So if that applies to CE2, they could be that Chinese hope that everybody was hoping for.
And their opponents, Roll20 Esports, the only North American team here, very eager to prove that they are among the ranks of the top regions. Right now, you know, most look at the Chinese region as weaker, and Roll20 and North America is sort of in this limbo state where they want to prove that they belong up in the upper echelon with Korea and with Europe, and being able to be at the 5th place just behind the European and Korean teams would be a great start to that.
Yeah, the player that stands out for me, by the way, when we come back to what they do outside of playing on stage is Justin, because he had, like, all the guys use accounts here that have previously been played on, so they don't play on clean slate accounts when they head into Hero League. And his account got ranked into Gold 1 in Hero League, and it was actually really funny because he's doing his best to communicate with his teammates, because there's actually a surprising amount of players in Hero League that recognize every single one of the pro players here.
Really?
So, yeah, so every time they see someone of the Roll20 boys heading into a game, there's immediately this one guy that writes them as like, "Oh, today, so sad you didn't win." And things like this. But there is a language barrier, of course. So what happens is that Justin is always using Google Translate to communicate with people. And it is so funny to just watch these exchanges when he's trying to explain to them a diva build, for example. And we all know that those translation programs out there, they are pretty cool, but they have their limitations. So he's doing his best to improve the relationship between China and North America. He's doing a pretty fantastic job there. And it just shows like these guys are really engaged. Not only the scrims with the teams on site, but also what they do outside of it. They make the most out of the tournament here.
I'm really glad actually that you bring up the Warrior player for World 20, because I feel like this is a match to watch for the Warriors, especially on both sides. Justin, his ETC has been getting some target bans from some of the Korean teams even, who generally will do that versus teams like Fnatic with Breeze or Tempest with Sign. And his Garrosh plays single-handedly is why they were able to get some kills versus Ballistics in the series. But then you look at CE, right? Wynn's Tyrael has been known for a long time to be fantastic, and he's been busting out the Garrosh too. Tyrael in this meta, kind of harder to be able to execute with so much Stukov, but I'm going to be keeping my eye on the two Warrior players for this matchup, and I think you at home will want to as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a Garrosh here. It can be very annoying on Towers of Doom if you have a Shrine spawn on your side of the map, and you can always threaten to throw someone into the bell tower. Interestingly enough, by the way, looking at the map bans, the map that wasn't banned out is Warhead. So there's still some hopes that we're going to get the NA special later on today. That would actually be a lot of fun. It's one of the first times that we have Warhead not banned against the North American team.
Yeah, choosing to ban Braxis Holdout with how much it has been played on by Roll20. Roll20 have also chosen it once, but in general it's also been chosen against them. They've just shown that they do have the NA stylings there. Genji banned by Roll20, consistent with them. In fact, though, neither of these teams have played Genji yet at this tournament, which is kind of odd. Both of them, as well as Fnatic, are the only teams as of yet to bust out a Fnatic. Or bust out a Genji.
A Fnatic Genji.
Yes.
Yeah, well, at this point we have just the Greymane opening. We have Dehaka and Karazim, so CA already showing, hey, boys, we are here to play a little bit of global pressure as well. The front line is something that we look towards, as you already pointed out. And man, they are hyped.
They are loud.
And that
I love it. ETC and the Li Ming. Kira gets to be on a ranged assassin. They've got the setup for maybe a double reset. And Justin's ETC.
Kira was just saying, I'm going to pop off in this series. I hope you guys are ready for it. And he said to me, and I was just like, okay, you can't just leave me hanging like that. You need to at least give me a hint. He's like, I'm going to get resets. I'm going to get a lot of resets.
Oh, man.
So he promised. Now he has to deliver. But these guys are absolutely on fire right now. I mean, they are really in high spirits. Like, there's a lot of laughing going on the side of Roll20 right now. A lot of smiles. They are ready for this game. CE on the other side.
Serious business.
Yeah, serious business. And that doesn't only go for the players, as I said before. We're sitting right across the Chinese commentators, and they were very hopeful for this series and for CE to get some wins here. And right now, all three of them are looking at this draft. They're like, all right, let's see. Let's hope they get the game there.
Well, we should know that Dehaka would be a highly contested pick for both of them, both CE with Paradise, and then Roll20 is a Goku.
Yeah.
Love having Dehaka, so at least CE get the Dehaka there and have some global control over banning that Brightwing. And they get Aloof's Karazim. Likely to be Aloof. It could maybe be K2I if they're going into a double support setup, but Aloof is by far the most common Karazim player. He's been playing Karazim for such a long time, I don't know if they'd want to put anybody else on it.
And of course, we're also still talking about the supports here. Roll20 at this point thinking about banning out Abatha. We already saw him played heavily between the two Korean teams here today, KSV Black and Ballistics. And if you already run Karazim and Dehaka, you have great head targets. Now, of course, at this point, there's still quite a few of supports open that you might consider as well. We have Rega still around, Lucio is still in there. And both of them have been highly contested throughout the entire tournament. And we're still waiting for CE to make their choice regarding the front line. I could have even seen them ban out Vala, to be absolutely honest with you. On
yeah,
side,
after picking the Greymane.
Yeah.
And all of the Chinese teams have been playing a fair amount of Vala.
Or Arthurs. We've seen a lot of Arthurs picked after Greymane is taken on the other side. So apparently Roll20 at this point is absolutely willing to give that over if CE is going to try and make that type of play. Not respect him too much.
Yeah, it's down to what Wind wants to play. Tyrael's still up, and
Yep.
maybe a way of both denying something like Sank Mosh, Sanctification with Greymane, and it just being Wynn's favorite hero to be able to play there. So that might be a possibility. And then, maybe the Vala after that too.
Yeah, with Avatar being banned out, you still need some solid damage that you can push out here. And of course, so far we have still a couple of potential on the side of Roll20 to go for one-shots, which would probably lead us into a bit more CC. We could see the Tyrael that you mentioned. We have also seen combinations with the Nubarak, for example, to extend what's being banned out even. First of all, they have Lucio, okay, the double support come on the side of CE. Muradin as a front line, so not respecting Greymane by Roll20 enough to head into Arthur's. Arthur's with Lucio would have actually been a pretty good solution here. His downside is, of course, normally that he has a bit of trouble making the engagements happen if he doesn't get into range. Muradin is a little bit more flexible, jumping in deep and then trying to aim for the Stormbolt. But if you have Lucio in the setup, then Arthur's all of a sudden becomes a lot more scarier on the opponent's side.
The Lucio also lets CE's double support players play what they're most comfortable with. But the final two picks now for Roll20. What does Goku play in this scenario? Could also get a Tyrael here. It is something that Goku's been picking up, I believe, more. I think we've seen him play it once.
I'm a fan of the Tyrael. For the composition, it would really fit. You have Greymane, and whenever you have Greymane in the setup, Tyrael automatically becomes just like so much more valuable. Then you have ETC, so we could use that double ult there to try and get his mosh pit through. You could also then run ETC with stage dive. I'm a fan of Tyrael. We decided to go into Leoric here instead, so that's for the off lane. A little bit more valuable, can hold his own there in terms of the wave clear. A little bit easier. Rhaegar as the support for Roll20. And now CE with their last pick. And what we're lacking on their side is damage. So let's see what the choice is.
Leoric would have been who I thought Goku would pick, if not for Tyrael. We'll be able to keep up with Dahaka in the side lanes and reduce the damage of whoever in this last pick. Standard Vala for CE to round things out. Should use Vala. Nothing to sneeze at. Also with Rain of Vengeance, another way of being able to counter a mosh pit.
It's nothing too surprising. It's not really a crazy draft on either side. We have a double support Vala for now. We're seeing on the side of Roll20 instead with Greymane and Li Ming a lot of potential to really blast targets apart. Leoric is pretty safe up at the top. The matchup into Dahaka depends highly on whether he's able to hit his Drain Hope here. And right now, there's nothing too surprising here. It's really just a very solid draft for both sides, and it comes very much so down to the execution who has the upper hand in this particular setup. Vala can definitely have a massive impact. For me, it's interesting to see what Karazim is going to take later, since you can make easy arguments for both Palm and also seven-sided. Probably would prefer the Palm a little bit more, just because you depend so highly on Vala to stay alive in these fights. So if you're confident that if you still have enough damage, if you don't go for seven-sided, especially with the potential 16 damage adjustments for Karazim, Palm would be a good idea here, unless they feel that they don't really need it and Vala isn't threatened enough by Li Ming and Greymane, but I feel she is going to be the priority target for Cure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like when we saw KSV versus Ballistics. Everything for Ballistics was centered on keeping Vala alive, and when they got into the good setup with the Sanctification, the Sound Barrier, and even Ariel having Crystal Aegis, they were able to make it through all of the team fights. So that is what it comes down for CE as well. But over in the blue, Roll20 Esports. Cure playing Li Ming, Dansky on Greymane, ETC played by Justin, Buds playing Rhaegar, and Goku on that Leoric.
Yeah, Goku and Leoric this time, and over to the right side of the map we have our Chinese team in red with Paradise on Dahaka, KTY on Lucio, Lufu, of course on Karazim, Shuyu on Vala, and Wind is playing Muradin. And Shuyu can have, Shuyu has actually played in a few of these games absolutely out of his mind, so he's someone that you definitely have to respect. Can get the damage in there, so that's something that Roll20 has to be careful about. But as I said, I feel Roll20, they are growing with every single day here. They are really using that scrim time that they have against some of the best teams in the world to improve as a roster, to get that synergy together. Their shot calling is improving. Hasn't been enough to give them the wins that they, I would say, deserved so far. but this game could change everything. And if they win this with the 2-0, then they are going to be the team that goes up against BTG, and that would of course make things a little bit easier heading into the playoff phase.
With the exception of their series versus Ballistics, Roll20 played incredible early games. Now they are going to likely lose Goku here. Nope, makes it back behind the gate just in time.
Hashtag calculated.
Just barely calculated there for Goku.
Actually is a rocket scientist, and he did the math, and he came to the conclusion that he can easily walk away from that. Not even close.
A mathematician and the melee flex player for a team, that's pretty nice to have. Oh, beautiful boop from KTY. But yeah, Roll20 had great early into mid games. It's how they're able to control rotations versus teams like Fnatic. So in that respect, it's entirely likely that we see Roll20 get quite a lead in the early to mid game. It's just how much of a lead do they get, and how aggressive does CE get, knowing that that is the strength of Roll20 early on.
Yeah, we have a lot of rotating going on right now in this game. Now Rega has taken over the top lane. We have Leoric in the mid lane. And at this point, Roll20 is simply rotating with two heroes, ETC and Greymane, trying to create opportunities on either mid or bot with a quick power slide, and then Dansky pushing out the damage here. But CE is replying in kind, also rotating a lot, and in this case actually trying to go for the opponent's camp and stealing that away, or at least attempting to. Goku is all of a sudden on the point and a little bit of trouble as well. But we have Dehaka moving in too. Wind jumps out. The kill against Rega. He's down. That's a big problem for Roll20. They lose Leoric as well. CE is making it a double kill. They steal the camp, and with two heroes dead, they can now make their place for the altar. Not quite the start that North America was hoping for here.
I don't think Roll20 ever expected that CE would be willing to bring Paradise down, as Dehaka stalking all the way in, but win that and win two of the altars too because of how fast they could transition to the mid. Two altars claimed by CE to the one of Roll20. Roll20 are willing to get in that fight. Unfortunately, Buds gets caught. Now Kira having trouble too. Teleports through Wind, but caught in the end. And a second kill for the Chinese team. Third kill for the Chinese team.
Yeah, Kira is doing a decent job trying to dodge most of those, especially the stun that came out of Murden, of course. But there's just too much damage output, and Shuyu, as we said before, is not missing out on an opportunity like this and confirms the kill here. So the Chinese team, heavily aggressive in the early game, and so far it's been paying off for them. They walk away with a level lead, 3 kills as you already said, and the advantage when it comes to the hit points on the core. And they are not done yet. With the help of Lucio and his quick rotations, they are starting to put the pressure onto Justin. And overall it just feels that Roll20 is not really able to even move out onto the map.
No, every time that someone goes out there, Wind has been very aggressive in his positioning, but that's the benefit of having a Murden on your team, is because he always heals back up from second Wind, he can play that aggressively and stall out the rotations of the team. Tried to do that too as much as he could so that they could get these sappers pushed in more, and one tower was claimed by CE as they're rapidly approaching level 7 talent here.
Now Roll20 so far has been running, as they did in the early game, a 1-1-3 setup, and that just doesn't really work out for them. Because they had Li Ming in the mid lane, and she just simply doesn't have the wave clear where she can put enough pressure onto CE to move into the mid lane, because she takes way too long. So what CE could do is they just foreman the bot lane, they have the Haka up at the top, and then they still have, after pressuring the bot lane with 4, enough time to move into the mid lane without missing out on any experience because Li Ming takes so long. So if Roll20 wants to maintain that 1-1-3, they need to switch out Li Ming in the mid lane with either Greymane or Rega just to put more pressure onto CE to split someone from that 4-man that they're trying to run here. Or they could just reply in kind and run a 4-man and mirror Dehaka as he's not trying to soak 2 lanes. And that's currently what they're doing. So they have Dehaka and Leoric rotating between mid and top, and we have that battle between the 4-man down at the bot lane. But of course that global still has an advantage since Dehaka can burrow it whenever.
It's enough of a threat that Leoric is starting to come down. Cleanse has to be used on Dansky. He's barely staying alive despite the pressure from Aluful. But now that Kira has Calamity trying to dive on top of Aluful and get the damage in. Not quite yet, but a beautiful power slide from Justin is the end of Dehaka, and Roll20 find themselves at a 5v4 advantage.
Dansky is back to business as well, since he was able to move out of the fight without dying and then topped off at the well. Now Aluful is trying to hold the position a little bit longer. That might actually his downfall, and it is, as ETC slides in, gets the quick stun, and then Cure moves in again. He promised us he would pop off, and so far, after 7, after Calamity, the boy has started to deliver.
The resets are starting, and they're not stopping because Lucio goes down and wins, and a whole heap of trouble being chased down by the rest of the team. does make it out in the end, but the minute that Roll20 hit their level 7 talents, they realized that that level deficit wasn't going to cut it for them versus CE, and now they've caught up not only in the core health, but in experience, even stealing the sappers from CE so they can start their own pressure.
I mean, you could actually tell that at level 7, Kyr's just simply, let's go, boys. I got this. And then with the help of Justin, just locking the targets down, he goes in, he hits the combo, he immediately goes for the Calamity, and it's a kill confirmed. And they do that 3 times in a row. All of a sudden, the kills are tied. We have the same amount of hit points on the core. And Roll20 is in the game.
Yeah, it's an important time to use that to their advantage because it's before CE has Sound Barrier. It's before that they have Palm if they're going to take it. So use that little bit of time where you have that big spike of damage of Calamity and get a few kills off of it. We'll see how that changes up, how the full team fights change up once heroic abilities are here, as both teams are just about to get them.
Yeah, the early game was a bit scary. Roll20 definitely not prepared for the aggression that came out of CE, but right now they're finding into their rhythm and they hit level 10 even a bit faster, and they put heavy pressure now onto that bot lane. Take the entire wall apart. They're having at this point also Bullet committed too, so not going for the throat here, trying to blow up the front line. Especially the Haka and Muradin can of course be punished with the setup. And we have the answer to the question whether Karazim is playing this safe or tries to be a bit more aggressive. Palm has been chosen as the level 10 talent, so it's all about keeping Shuyo on Vala alive.
Protect the Vala composition fully complete now for CE. Roll20 were considering Stage Diver Mosh Pit. There are quite a lot of interrupts for Mosh Pit, but we haven't seen that stop Justin before. He is very patient with his Mosh Pits. He might go an entire game until the very end before he finally finds the right place to strike. When he drops down, expect it to be 4 to 5 man.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I was just about to say.
Every
he had
time.
some insane mosh pits already. And that 5-man that you mentioned with the help of Oriel, just like pushing the last one in there. You want to dance as well, don't you?
The alley-oop.
Yeah, exactly. So we have an even exchange in the altars now. 28 points on the core and a very even experience as well. Up at the top lane, a bit of pressure against Leoric since he all of a sudden has to deal with 2 and trying to take the camp here. But that also means that Roll20 now has 4 heroes in a potential setup against CE's 3-man. So if they get another power slide with Justin, he doesn't always go for a 4-man or a 5-man mosh pit. If he can just mosh 1 and they get a kill off that, that should already create enough pressure that they can commit to the camps and maybe even claim a bell tower.
Yeah, that is true. The trade on Sappers favored that CE still had a couple of those Mosh interrupts and someone who could get Sappers really fast with the Vala, but they didn't want to commit to that. CE didn't want to over-aggress and risk Roll20 coming in for the fight, but they're going to go in anyway! And before the sound barrier, before anything saves Vala, she was just gone.
What a clutch kill. That was insanely well done by Roll20. And the cool thing about this is Lucio actually was absolutely on point. He sees the engagement and literally the second that anyone on the side of Roll20 moves, he immediately tries to hit the sound barrier. But just because of that tiny build-up, it wasn't enough. Roll20 committed everything and their coordination was insanely on point. They get the kill, and as we said before, once Vala is down, you have to give up the fight and they need to move away. For them, it hurts twice. Not only do they lose Vala, they lose the cooldown on the sound barrier as well, so they have to wait another 35 seconds until they can utilize that. But Roll20 is starting to run the show here.
I mean, I feel like that situation is the exact reason why we were hypothesizing Palm. But the save has to be there. If Roll20 is that on point, the save has to be there from CE. The next altar phase starting, Roll20 have the advantage in whatever shots they can get because they took that bell tower. Also because it was the bot bell tower and 1 spawn bot. The zoning by just hanging out at the bell tower allows them to channel 1. So it's only this here in the mid that CE can even hope to contest.
Yeah, and they're trying to do exactly that. The Haka is still aiming for a bit of extra experience. Vala completing her quest. It's a big power spike. But look at Wind popping the avatar. Paradise comes in. He might be a bit too late. Goku is zoning Vala out completely. That's just no damage for CE here.
The zoning, insane. Vala does take out Leoric as Paradise comes around, and this hasn't been channeled yet. Leoric will be back in a little bit, and he'll be able to spawn right back here. Let's see if Roll20 can safely poke long enough, or if CE can draw away some of the resources like this. Cleanse, Justing in trouble.
Yeah, isolation, and the Ancestral is just a bit too late. In the meantime, Rhaegar moving to the right or to the left. Greymane is splitting actually off a little bit, so they have two angles where they could potentially go for an interrupt, but it's not enough. Goku even in trouble and gets jumped upon as we have CE with an attempt to confirm another kill. Unsuccessful for now, but CE gets the altar. So the initial idea here of Leoric moving to the right and completely pressuring Vala and pushing her away from the fight was actually really cool. But once that we had the Haka moving in, he turned it into a 2-for-1, and that resulted in the kill against Leoric. Now, if Roll20 in the meantime would have accomplished to kill someone in the remaining 4 versus 5 situation that we had around the altar, that wouldn't really have mattered too much. But with them not confirming a kill on all of a sudden Vala and Dehaka moving back into the battle, they just had a losing fight at their hands, and that resulted in CE winning the altar and claiming the additional kills. So we have a pretty back and forth game on our hands, Gilly. Yeah,
they either needed to be getting the kills in the 4v3 or potentially just channeling the altar in that time too, knowing that they were likely going to sacrifice Leoric, but it's okay because it's Leoric. There's another fight about to start. Do they proc the palm? It does proc. Loof just dies anyway with enough damage from Roll20.
Yeah, that palm was a bit unfortunate for them here. And it could be, and it is, another kill. Once again, we have a double kill for Roll20, and as they are already up at the top lane, they immediately turn towards the boss and try to get another 4 shots. Now, Lucio can check that out. I'm actually surprised that he is willing to take that very aggressive path towards the top lane. If ETC would have sit in that bush, that could have been another kill.
Alright, I'm trying to figure out where CE suddenly can survive that damage of Roll20. And the truth is, I'm just a little bit scared for them all the way through. For CE with Lucio, his healing is going to get a lot better at 16. Maybe Bossa Nova just to have more sound barriers available.
I mean, we had very few 5-mans just yet. So CE has to keep Karazim with the rest of the team. And Dehaka, when he takes the top lane, has to just be careful enough that if he doesn't see anyone on the map of Roll20, if vision is played with, he needs to be more passive. That's basically it, because anytime that Justin gets a quick stun in and then the follow-up from Greymane with the bullet and also Li Ming comes, a target is going to die unless Karazim palms. Now, here's a hint, he can't palm if he's dancing, and this is the mosh pit they needed, but actually good attempt by CE, trying to turn this around, and they kill ETC.
They do.
Still lose the Haka.
They lose a whole lot more than that, because Gear's going off again, going right after Wind, who dodges every single thing and lives. Roll20 lose 1, but they take out 3, and more altars to channel. In the bottom, Goku channeling that. A lot of shots heading toward the core of CE. 4 more as the final altars channeled, leaving it at 7.
Yeah, well done by Roll20. The most important, or one of the most important altar phases in the game, and they hit all 3. Well done, 25 to 7 points on the core. And that was actually, once again, really well done by Justin. He sees Karazim and he knows it's the one target that can keep the one shot from happening. So he goes in, gets the slide, commits to the mosh pit, they get the kill. And even with CE's attempt that was very well executed, started to turn this around, it just wasn't enough. So Roll20 gets exactly the fights and the engagements that they need and want. It's all about Olufu. He has to stay safe. He needs to make sure that he is not close enough to ETC to get stunned out.
You know what I thought was kind of funny in that fight too is that Paradise dragged ETC one way and then dragged him the other way. Now he's going to drag Goku, who marches right on through all of the members of CE. Now Justin coming into Wind, almost goes down. This time the sound barrier went off though. It's a good start at least for CE.
And he didn't even use palm. Like, the coordination on the Chinese team
good.
here. Someone must have told him immediately, I got this one, you take the next. Right now, that was a good lockdown here by Shuyu, but not enough damage on Goku to really threaten him. Already on the move back. And this is just an endless brawl that we're having here. 9 kills against 6 in favor of Roll20. They have the slight leading experience, but it's really the points on the core that set them apart here. Goku again. Here comes Shuyu, trying to go for the kill.
His Rains of Vengeance have been on point. Almost gets that kill, but not quite enough. Now Goku reducing the damage using the Ominous Wraith. Takes some damage. He's going to try to make it out, but Paradise drags him right back into the thick of things.
Yeah, Goku getting a little bit of trade value here for his team. And will, of course, be back in a bit. But that's another kill for CE that they can maybe utilize to finally get access to that bottom bell tower. It's already at half HP. If they commit to this, they might be able to get it. Justin slides in, misses though. Shuyu on the way back. Nice dodge by him. And in the meantime, the Haka is trying to close the gap in experience.
Goku keeping a lot of CE slowed where he can. Was a little bit concerned when CE wanted to siege there, didn't have Rain of Vengeance back up yet. Mosh was still available for Roll20, so they do back off.
One of the reasons why CE is actually starting to do a bit better is that once level 16 was hit, the damage output is so much better for CE. Nice sound barrier once again, well done. And we have Roll20 on the move back as the one-shot combo was executed but didn't find a target. Rega falls, is able to get the Ancestral out. The palm connects with Murden, but it's not triggered yet. The fight not over, but Dainsky is in trouble.
Paradise is just wrecking him. He had the drag, he had the isolation, and then Shuyu with the follow-up damage will take him down. But Kier finds himself another reset. It's a 2-for-1. Now on a terrible setup way on the other side of CE as a drag hits him. Teleports over the wall, though. Kier's made it out again.
At this point, it's Q against CE.
Oh,
He gets it again.
What?
Is he able to escape, though? Maybe.
Yeah. This is
no way.
insane.
There is no way he survives all of this. He actually moves back because the altar is still threatened, and CE realizes that they just can't chase him forever. He's
still chasing him.
And now all of a sudden we have Justin. He can go for the stun. Where's the combo? There it is. And he goes down.
Dominance for the win.
A god. He dodges 4 heroes for the entirety, then he's chased down by Murden, is able to escape him, pressures him, and as Murden all of a sudden realizes, well, now all of a sudden I am the hunted, tries to move away, but Justin moves in and they confirm the kill. Cure was not lying when he said he would be popping off in this game. He is currently what keeps Roll20 in here.
Man, he felt good and he better feel good after all those plays. That was insanity from Kier. It did give time for CE to get an altar, so they're still hanging in. Cursive bullet after the power slide. Paradise in danger. He's gonna go down, throws out the isolation.
This is what can't happen. If you don't have the vision, you have to play safe. Roll20's one-shot is insanely strong, and they have proven over and over and over again in this game that their coordination is on point. They once again take the Haka down at the top lane. The immediate move towards the boss. It's absolutely perfect for them.
There are sappers in the bottom lane, and the zoning from CE hoping that they can escort those in, at least to limit the shots of Roll20 if they can take down that bell tower.
Right now, Roll20 has hit their Storm Talents. That's not going to make things any easier for CE, and we're currently in a situation where any camp that you escort through is going to end the game in favor of Roll20, or if you grab another altar, of course. So right now, CE also on 20. Both of the teams with Storm Talents, even fights once again. But this is still going to be rough. Zoning with a Mosh Pit, for example, could allow you to buy those precious seconds to get one channel through, depending on the position when we're heading into the next phase. And also, we have a Bell Tower at the bot lane nearly eliminated. If Cure just pokes it down, this is going to be a really rough battle, since that's also where the altar spawns. But Goku might fall here, and he actually does. And this is the worst time for Leoric to die.
Oh, and Buds is in a tough spot too. Booped back, now running away, running for his life away from CE, who drops the sound barrier, giving them hopefully a chance to catch up with him, but Justin helps out Buds and he escapes with just the 1 kill on Goku, and Roll20 did take that bell tower.
The bell tower is important, but I still think they have to give up the altar because it's another 20 seconds until the Auric is back. There's just no way they can make that play right now. So even though they get the bell tower at the bottom right and cut off the retreat path for CE, they have to let this one go. It's not too many shots, so it's still fine. We have CE moving for the bell tower in the meantime. But yeah, Goku dying was definitely a blow to them.
Goku's gonna go right back in. Try to save this bell tower. At least scare away with that spooky skeleton stylings. I wondered if Lufu would go for Peaceful Repose at level 20 just to be more liberal with his palms and make sure that they could keep someone alive, but not going for that, getting Storm Shield just for all of the help and damage.
You know, one of the things that I absolutely love with Roll20 is that they have several players that, depending on the game, depending on the situation, can turn into that superstar that the team needs. We have talked about Goku as the Haka and how he oftentimes has such an insane impact on the game. In this game right now, he's more of a supportive role. His Leoric is doing some work. He is oftentimes just taking the punches at the front. But all of a sudden, it's Cure and Justin who absolutely pop off, supported by the rest of the team. So this is the cool thing about them. There's always one of them that steps up and says, I got this, boys.
They've also got the mid bell tower. As that goes down, just doing the bell tower game, trading them out, waiting for the next alter phase, waiting for some place that they're able to get some kills to win the game that way. If they can take all of the bell towers down, just keep CE at bay.
I mean, they're alone the potential for just poking with the Hunter's Blunderbuss on level 20 now as well just works. And again, the damage output on the side of CE is pretty solid, but it's nothing compared to the one-shot combo that we have for Roll20. You still have to respect Vala. After the Manticore kicked in on level 16 and now with a Farfly Quiver, you know that there's going to be insane pressure against your front line. It makes her so much safer, and as we highlighted before, Shuyu is extremely strong on these auto attack damage dealers. So Roll20 still has to respect this. They are far ahead with 18 points in the core against 3, but still, we all know that Towers of Doom can... I mean, there's always comeback potential.
Yeah, and this is not a bad Shrine phase at all for CE. Because they're both in the top lane, they can have to hawk a channel, but brush talk in, even brush talk behind Roll20 if he thinks he can catch somebody with that elongated tongue and then pull them and drag them into the Rain of Vengeance for a quick kill. That's going to be the channel started for Dahaka as Goku goes in. Lots of damage put onto the backline of CE. He's going to start the stock in.
But there's the kill. A great play by Leoric at the start, making sure that they have to finish damage.
Turbas!
But here comes the Mosh, the Turbas, the interrupt on the other hand. It's still a 5 versus 4. The palm comes through and is actually blocked as we see Dansky all of a sudden try... Oh, yeah, he's in a lot of trouble. Gets the Ancestral though, so he's still fine, but it's a 5 versus 4 still. And we have CE really trying to get these kills. They need to be aggressive. That's exactly what they do. Daisy goes down as Shuyu confirms with the last final auto attack the kill.
Greymane's gone. Kier was hoping to get all of those smaller health bars down for resets, but because the team was so split and CE's Paradise pushed Kier all the way back. He was on the other side of the team, had to make another great escape. That took time. It gave time for CE to get those kills, and they are making the comeback happen here.
Yeah, especially with Shuyu having Farfly Quiver. As I said before, he really dodged around Leoric the entire time, and we had Martel Black King committed too. We had Leoric putting so much pressure onto him, but Vala was still able to escape. And during the entire time, he still worked those auto attacks in as he retreated and then moved back in, took down Leoric, and later on was even able to take another kill for his team. So he is really making this happen for CE right now. Again, they're down to 3 points on the core, but at this point they're looking for another kill. Justin is in trouble, but is able to move out. Got the cleanse here, but what about Cure? Is he going to be able to survive here?
Oh, that repulsion split CE apart, and KTY found himself in not a great place, but all of Roll20 is just trying to get back to safety if they can, sacrificing the Leoric again just to make sure that the rest can make it out. This gives CE time to potentially get this boss here. That is the closest objective that they're at. My concern too is that if CE keeps winning these fights like this, top and bottom bell towers are pretty low for Roll20. This could be a huge swing for CE. That's the place where the swing could take place.
Late game Roll20, they struggle so much here. CE has worked their way back into this, and already Roll20 said, boys, this isn't working out. We need to change the MO a little bit. Let's change the game plan. They moved to the bot lane with Greymane and immediately took one of the camps and said, we need to apply pressure somewhere else. We can't just simply head into this wall, into this 5-man where CE beats us right now with coordination, and now finally also the damage that they have. But keep in mind, one simple one-shot combo on the side of Roll20, a good power slide by Justin with a follow-up bullet and also the combo out of Li Ming could decide this game in favor of the North American team. But as we said before, this isn't over, but can Win survive here? He gets attacked, moves in, uses the Avatar. Already Justin gets the cleanse here. Isolation is hitting hard as well. The Ancestral keeps Dansky alive.
Paradise has been playing this phenomenally. March the Black King gets some of the health back, but at the back of that, dragged back in. I cannot believe Paradise's plays. Just going in with a fishing hook almost and dragging someone in, the best target to drag in, causing chaos in the ranks of Roll20. They don't have the Leoric. They might lose their Rhaegar.
Butts is low and is barely moving back. They should just simply... They can still... No, they can't give it up. It's 3 points. My bad. We have at this point, but solo Luftful goes in, palms himself, confirms the kill. Justin also dies. Cure is still there, but it's not enough. A Luftful down as at least one on the side of CE falls, but Dansky is also killed, and that's the wipe as CE heads for the final altar in the game. They turned it around and are able to win map number 1 against Roll20.
The red side of the stage erupted in cheers of jubilation as CE took out Roll20, making the miracle comeback on Towers of Doom. Is always a good feeling, but it's gotta feel good for them to know they secured that 5th place spot going into the 2nd round of this tournament.
I'm still amazed that they made it work.
Their synergy was insane.
I mean,
so good.
We talked about the synergy on the side of Roll20, and they played out of their minds in the early and mid game when they just confirmed kill after kill. There was such a great coordination between ETC and Li Ming in particular, but also Greymane, and blowing up the targets here. But Goku suffered so much on Leoric, especially after Vala hit Farfly Core and Manticore. It was a huge problem because he's always in a position where he needs to go in. He needs to make sure that Ominous Wraith is hitting Vala and reduces the damage. But we had Shuyu dodging so many of these attempts, and then once he pops out of Ghost form, it's just Shuyu and Vala working in these auto attacks, and it's just way too much. He killed so many of them, and also the confirmed kill against, I think it was Greymane or Rega that escaped to the left and basically thought himself safe already. And then a final auto attack comes through and he falls. Shuyu really popped off. We talked about Cure, and he played amazing, but at the same time, the auto attack damage dealer on CE's side, that was phenomenal play here towards the end.
Yes, and Wind and Paradise set him up for success so well in the late game. Yep. Wind landed Stormbolt after Stormbolt. They had the follow-up Rain of Vengeance in an instance. Aloof would go into that palm when he was diving in just to make sure he could get that kill. That's the Kharazim that I remember from Aloof. So aggressive, so confident in his play. CE played so well. They made the comeback on Towers of Doom. They win that game, and they guarantee themselves 5th place in this tournament.
It's still insane to me that Roll20 finds themselves in another situation where they dominate mid-late game and also huge parts of the late game and still lose the match.
When I say 5th place, I mean 5th place going into the next phase. But I agree. It's got to be disheartening for